Welcome back to KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. We now want to have deliberations right here in studio. We're expecting three of the sharpest minds to join us as we get to deliberate on some of the developing matters in the country. We'll be canvassing matters to do with press freedom, not just that, governance in the country and human rights, bearing in mind the latest developments that have played out ever since the June 25th protest. I'm joined in studio already by two of my guests. Allow me to introduce them. Eric Odor is the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Journalists. Thank you so much for your time. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
And equally joined by Wakili Willis Otieno. He's an advocate. Thank you so much for your time. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
We're expecting Dr. Barak Muluka to join us a little bit later on, but the show must go on. So let's begin on the corridors of justice with the latest developments around the disappearance of blogger Ndiangoi Kenyagia, who went missing on June 25th, or 21st rather, after DCI officers visited his residence in Kino. There was a habeas corpus application to produce him in court, and the judge ordered the DCI director, Mohammed Amin, to appear in person before court on Thursday this week, I think on the 3rd. And this follows the DCI sensationally claiming that the blogger is not in their custody. I'd like to begin with you, Willis, because you were part of the battery of lawyers who were pushing for habeas corpus for this blogger to be produced. Unfortunately, nothing played out much today in terms of DCI presenting this particular gentleman who was referred to as a person of interest. As you reflect on what exactly went on in the corridors of justice, is it enough for the DCI to say that we do not have him? Is ignorance defense in their case?
In the circumstances of this particular case, it's not enough for DCI to say we do not have him. Because if you look at the circumstances surrounding the issue of Ndiangoi, as at 19th of June, was a free man. There was nobody who had publicly or known to the Kenyan people who had an interest in Ndiangoi. The first person who demonstrates an interest in Ndiangoi is a letter written from DCI to the Communication Authority of Kenya inquiring about his X account. So they're the only group of people who are known to have an interest in this gentleman. Then on the 21st of June, he disappears. And on that 21st of June, criminalities are committed at his residence. DCI officers appear there in their usual balaclavas and marked vehicles, Subarus, and they break into that house, purport to take an inventory of items. So the original act was criminal, to break into his house. Then you come out and you tell us, we don't have him. If you look at this country, there's only one agency that is known to be operating in Subaru motor vehicles, carrying firearms, wearing civilian clothing. It is the same set of group of persons appeared at Ndiangoi's residence in Subarus, wearing civilians, carrying guns. If it quacks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, it is a duck. DCI Amin owes the Kenyan people a duty to uphold our laws. He must produce Ndiangoi. He cannot run away from it. And if you look at his conduct in court today, what they were discussing are issues to do with alleged exposed, alleged recovery of items from his residence. They are not even talking about investigations in an attempt to find the missing person. To them, the expose is now more important than this Kenyan who cannot be produced in court. The life of the individual is less important compared to the exposed and the items. And look at the recent occurrence in relation to Albert Ojwang. DCI officers in a Subaru went to his residence, went and took him, brought him to Nairobi, they killed him. They lied about it. What is different with Ndiangoi? Same DCI officers went to his residence. This time, they're lying that they don't have him. At least before, They lied that they had him, but that he hit his head on a wall. When all the facts were demonstrating, they tortured him in the police cell and killed him. I hope they have not killed Ndiangui. And DCI officers must be called to account. Amin must rein in his officers, unless he's now the head of this criminal enterprise. Because what we must say as a people, at this particular point in time, when the police stop applying the law, then we question if then be any need to maintain them in office. Because if you are doing all of these things in breach of the law, what law are you enforcing? You are no longer a law enforcement agency. You are now a criminal enterprise, and we must call them for who they are. They are now a criminal enterprise serving partisan political interests. Because it was law enforcement, we have our courts here working every day. We do have even a filing system that is 24-hour. They don't use that. Even whatever they claim Ndiangui had done, I have not seen even a single summons that was issued to him. Who gave the police authority to abandon the criminal procedure as we know it? That there are certain offenses, if you're investigating, the first step is normally to issue summons to the individual to appear before a police station. You take his statement. But you cannot normalize a practice where every time DCI appears in people's residences, in civilian clothing, carrying firearms, and in Subarus, and they grab them. What's happened to summons? The only times when police are allowed to arrest without summons is when a cognizable offense is committed in the presence of the police officer, or summons had been issued and the person has refused to comply. But all these circumstances, from Albert, go back since the Gen Z revolution started, to now Ndiangui, not a single summon has been issued.
So, in regards to the appearance of the head of the DCI on Thursday, in case they feign ignorance, as they've done previously, what alternative does the family have?
No, the only alternative in this particular instance is not even just to the family alone, but to the Kenyan people. We must demand more of these people in office. And Mohammed Amin, DCI director, must bear personal responsibility for the production of this gentleman. He cannot run away from it. You will not tell me that a Kenyan can vanish without DCI knowing. That's a lie. There is no border you are going to cross. They have enough personnel and they have enough equipment to track and trace any singular Kenyan, wherever they are, when they are minded to. When you see the track and trace not being deployed, it means they know who has it. And the people who have Ndiangui are security officers. It cannot be that a Kenyan can vanish from the face of the country. It's not possible. And they're lying to us. And we have to call out these lies and demand that our laws must be respected, our resources must be put to the use and the benefit of the people of Kenya.
Well noted. Odor, I know you're not a lawyer, but as a member of the Fourth Estate, taking a look at the tenets of rule of law, when they're not heeded to, is this a cause of concern, not just to journalists far and wide, but equally to Kenyans? Because you never know if such injustices could knock at your door at any moment if you're the next person. So talk to us about this leap towards injustice and the disregard of the rule of law from where you sit here.
Okay, thank you. I believe that any country, and Kenya, we must be governed by the rule of law. Immediately you apply anarchy to address an anarchy, then obviously you'll have worse results. So in this particular case, even with all fairness, let's assume this gentleman was not abducted or arrested by the police. But it is the responsibility of police and the DCI in particular to trace and find a missing person. Here we have a family that has reported a missing person. So if police or DCI in particular, they say they did not arrest or they did not abduct this particular person, then they should go further and do investigation and produce him. If I followed the matter in court, and even the judge was not convinced by the explanation from the DCI that they are not aware of where this person is. But if they are not aware, I think it's the responsibility of the police to go and find where this guy is and produce him. If you have a country where people can just disappear and nobody knows where they are, then obviously there is a problem in that particular society. And if not addressed, actually it will lead to more problems. So in this particular case, even if this gentleman was not arrested by police, then the police should go further to do its duty by ensuring that they find a missing person that has already been announced by the family and help him reunite with his family or produce him in court as the courts have directed. There is no way you will say that a Kenyan can just disappear and nobody can trace them. Yet we have got police that has got the resources, they have got the technology, they have got the powers to find where any missing person who has been reported is and produce this person either in court or help the person to reunite with the family. So we should begin from there so that even the police say that yes, they're not responsible for the disappearance of this guy. But now going by the responsibility of police of maintaining law and order and also protecting property and life, then they should help us to trace this gentleman and help the gentleman reunite with the family or produce him in court. I think we should begin from there, because if we allow the breakdown of law and order, we are putting in place a society that will be difficult to manage or govern in future.
Well put. I just want to draw attention to some sentiments that were mentioned by the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, who came under fire for issuing shoot-on-sight orders to police officers against any Kenyan who dares to attack a police station. The CS thereafter equally sparked outrage by stating that the government will not cooperate with investigating authorities, those who are investigating police officers for using firearms to defend government facilities, even if their actions lead to civilian deaths. Let's just listen in to some of the sentiments shared, not just by the Interior Cabinet Secretary, but the reactions thereafter. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the ODM leader, reacted to this amongst other leaders, including the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Let's just listen in.
Umeambia polisi, mtu yoyote mwenye atakaribia police station, piga yeye risasi. Mtu yoyote mwenye anatupiwa mawe polisi, anataka kuua polisi, ati atakuja kupembelezwa. Unafikiria bunduki ni mandazi?
Tumesikia hata leo nimetangazia kila mtu kwa Kenya. Sio ati ni siri tena. Nimesema askari mwenye atasumbuliwa ati anapelekwa kotini kwa sababu alitumia bunduki kujichunga ama kuchunga police station ama kuchunga bunge ama kuchunga government office kotini ama wapi, mtu akijaribu kwanza hawezi, because hatuta cooperate.
I cannot order an Inspector General of Police on anything because the Constitution denies me to do so. And I did not order the Inspector General or any police officer to carry out any extrajudicial anywhere. Your Excellency, what I did was to state the law. And as a lawyer, I have studied, read this law, and I understand what the law says. And what I told the police officers is, if you will not find me anywhere where I said somebody should be shot to be killed, you will not find me anywhere where I said that a police officer should take orders from myself. No, I restated the law and reminded them what the law says.
We must also censor the police. The police should never ever shoot to kill. Police have no license to kill human beings. If somebody has committed a crime, arrest that person and take him before a court of law, charge him. So anybody giving instruction to a police officer that, oh, kama mtu na karibia police station, piga risasi. My shame. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Who can attack a police station? You have nothing, you have no gun, polisi wako pale kuna bunduki. Ati inasemekana ati watu wameingia polisi, ati wamechoma police station wameenda. How? Wale watu walichoma vitu ni watu si wa area hiyo, hawajulikani. Ati ndio washike huyu Medho. Huyu Medho anaweza choma vitu hapa Nyandarua? We are not fools. Sisi si wajinga. That talk of ati ilikuwa kuu ya kupindua rais ni kitu wanatafuta ndio waangaishe viongozi na vijana ya jamii yetu.
All right, a lot weighty statements by the Interior Cabinet Secretary, and the Fourth Estate called him out for doublespeak. And I just want to hear what Wakili has to say about what the law says when police are allowed to use firearms or use force. Let's start from there as we boil down to what the Interior CS said and whether we have any right to call him out.
You know, the first thing that in terms of use of firearms,
yeah,
the law does not envisage a police officer or any other person for that matter to use his firearms to cause harm. The only times when it's permissible to use your firearm is if there is a threat to the life of the officer or other persons. Then the use of the firearm is permissible, but only to the extent to neutralize, not to kill, to neutralize the threat. So the use of firearms should be commensurate to the threat that was being exposed. You cannot tell me that when the CS says here, and media doesn't lie, it's recorded. It was him who was speaking, unless it is owning that gentleman we saw is not Murkomen, he's Murkomut. But if he was Murkomen, that one is this face that we know it. He was there comfortably on 2 occasions saying, I've told the police officers, mtu akikaribia station, piga yeye risasi. Those are his words. Directly encouraging the police to use their firearms, not to apply permissible restraint and, where necessary, to use permissible force to eliminate the danger, not the person. So that when you are told that you can use a firearm, you ask yourself, what's the threat level? It's 5 people coming to a police station, they're demonstrating. Can I talk to them to de-escalate? If that is possible, you use it. Can I, if they are not listening, can we use restraining methods? Maybe arrest them, put handcuffs on them, put them in a holding facility? You can do that. If it's not possible, maybe they are carrying rocks. Can I use a tear gas canister? Can I use a water cannon? Can I use a baton? Firearm is the last option on the list of items that you can use against a civilian. And even when you do so, the act is very clear. The officer who uses it must be able to take account and report to his superior the circumstances under which the firearm was used. But what we saw on TV was with Murkomen encouraging a casual use of firearms. And he proceeds further to say, once you've done it, we will not cooperate. And that is what Amin and Kanja are doing. They're not cooperating in relation to Ndiangui. There was an order given to them, produce the body of the person of Ndiangui in court today. They didn't produce the person. In alternative, they were told to appear in court in person. They didn't appear in court in person. That's the lack of cooperation. So as I'm telling you, all this is part of the same transaction. We can see Murkomen says it, they've disappeared with this young man. Now they're refusing, in compliance with the directive by Murkomen, to cooperate with the court. They are not cooperating to further the interest of the rule of law. So legacy politicians, again, coming into the scene to abuse our legal process, to further their political agenda. Because our constitution demands of us in Article 10, one of the values of national governance is accountability. Accountability. Those who are holding public office must be able to account to the people of Kenya on how they exercise their authority or their positions. Murkomen is a public officer. He is not talking to Mbumbutu villagers. He is now sitting as the CS in the Republic of Kenya, in charge of internal security. He owes it to the Kenyan people to account to them on how he exercises the functions of that office. And let me conclude by saying this. Look at it this way. When Kenyans give a notice that they're going to demonstrate, what has been the response of the police? Their response has been to mobilize units, give them camouflage uniform, give some of them guns, put some of them in civilian double cabins, give them balaclavas. Are you telling me that when somebody has told you I'm going to demonstrate, a response from the state to give people firearms and ammunition, balaclavas, is about policing the demonstration? No. That's a killer squad being deployed. Because if it was about law enforcement, I would expect that in a demonstration, once a police receive notice of a demonstration, they should be providing water. That's what they should be carrying. They should be carrying first aid kits, bandage.
And protecting the protesters.
Protect the protesters.
Yeah.
Set up marshals to help the protesters walk through the procession.
Yeah.
But when what they are heavily investing in fact, if you ask any police officer today, they'll tell you, in the last financial year, the most bought item that the police use is tear gas canisters. And they are bringing them in different flames and shades. Why? For the singular purpose to disrupt the exercise of Article 37 right to peaceably and armed to protest. And yet when you see goons walking around with guns, with the clubs, it is behind police vehicles. Police give them safe passage to go and hurt innocent civilians and to vandalize private businesses. And you're telling me this is a police service? It's not a police service anymore. This is a tool of legacy politicians. And we must call them out. It doesn't hurt to speak the truth. Seek ye the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Okay, interesting. And that's why I asked him, when exactly are police allowed to use force in their firearms? Because listening to the former police spokesperson, mentioned that in the case of the late Boniface Karaoke Mwangi, who was shot, the mask vendor, he simply mentioned that, this young man had some unprintable words directed towards the police officer, and the police officer reacted in kind, shooting him at point-blank range, and which is quite unfortunate. Restraint is barely there. I'd like your take on Murkomen's decision to say that we will not cooperate in cases a police officer who's in the corridors of justice and is put there simply because of protecting his government installations and using his firearm to do so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. When I heard Murkomen make the statement, number one, what came to my mind was that Kipchumba Murkomen still thinks that he's a senator for Elgeyo Marakwet, because as a senator and as a politician, you can make any statement and get away with it. What he didn't realize that he's now speaking as a cabinet secretary who is in charge of interior and security of a country. Because immediately you make such statements, when the consequences come, obviously as the cabinet secretary who is in charge of interior and the security of a country, you will become the casualty, because definitely what will happen is we'll have a lawless country. We'll have a country where nobody wants to respect the law, because there is no way you will kill my son, you will kill my friend, you will kill my daughter, my cousin, my schoolmate, or anybody else, and nobody will not fight back. We've, as journalists, we've had conversations with the youth and communities in Kenya on the subject of radicalization. And these people are radicalized because of what they believe that the security forces are against them. So when you go there and you kill citizens, obviously these people will now develop rebellion. And when there is a rebellion, Murkomen will have no docket to manage, because everything will go down, because the youth whom is supposed to be, who are part of this society will rebel against police. And that is how people now start forming rebel groups, and that is how rebels are formed. Even if you go to other countries, right now if you go to Congo, those people in Goma and that part of Eastern DRC, they are rebelling against Kinshasa government because they believe that this government doesn't care for them. So if that's what we'll see in this country, and Murkomen, who is supposed to be in charge of security, will become the first casualty, because you'll have a docket whereby you've got now rebel groups, where these youth come together and they form rebel groups because they want to rebel against the government. Like Willis has said, when police is supposed to use force, they're only supposed to mobilize these people who are posing threats to them or to their lives. But you're not supposed to kill. Look at Boniface Karaoke, who was shot and he died yesterday. Look at what happened. Even if he used unpredictable words like former police spokesperson Charles Owino says, but you don't shoot him in the head. I mean, because that was not immobilization, because we've seen even in other areas when police are using force to protect themselves, they do not aim at your head, because obviously when they aim at your head, that is the person who wants to kill you, even if it's a rubber bullet. So when you put that together with what Murman said, it tells you that we've got a problem in terms of leadership, and nobody wants to be accountable. Nobody wants to be held accountable. That's now where the media comes in, because the role of the media is to hold the power to account. And when we want to hold someone to account, because the subject of accountability is a very difficult discussion, especially in this country. Nobody wants to account, and that is why Murman is telling his police officers that when they come near you, please kill them. And if you look at what is going on, even the Gen Zs, when they are protesting, and when they see police, they don't see police as someone who is supposed to come in and maintain law of order, like what Willis has said, that when there is demonstrations and protests, police are supposed to provide security and ensure that law and order is maintained, and they protect the protesters against people who will infiltrate them. But nowadays, when the protesters, they see police as people who have come to kill them. And that's where the problem comes, because they fail to cooperate. And you've seen even in other circumstances where when soldiers are deployed, and you see the cooperation between the protestant and the military, it tells you that there is some kind of confidence that they have in the soldiers, because they believe these guys have come to maintain law and order. But when they see police as people who are coming to kill. And also going by the historical injustices, we've seen in history, we'll tell you that police have always been accused of killing civilians and using excessive force. And if you look right now, that's why it's called now police service. It used to be called police force. And they said that we are now replacing the word force with the service, because we want to restore confidence and trust in police, so that when they go out there when they are deployed out there, people do not see police as people who are going there to attack them, but they are going there to maintain law and order. But now if you hear a cabinet secretary in charge of interior saying that when they get near you, please kill them, please use for the firearm. And I don't believe that those are the statements we are supposed to be hearing from a leader, somebody who holds a very key docket in a country that is responsible for security of a country, because that statement alone is a threat to national security, because it will trigger anger among the people. Okay. The people will want to retaliate, and people will say that, okay, fine, we will come, let you please come and kill us, because now you are hardening people. But if you engage, because I believe what we are supposed to hear from the government and especially police, they are supposed to engage, find out where is the problem. I was having a conversation with friends that ever since this protest started, we have got a whole Ministry of Youth and Sports. I have not seen any statement, even from the Ministry of Youth Affairs, saying that we are ready to engage the youth. What is the problem? Why can't we sit on the table and agree and see what are your issues and probably try to come up with solutions? Yeah. What we saw is the cabinet secretary in charge of security saying that we are going to kill you. And you see, when immediately you do that, we'll have that kind of reaction from the youth who say that, okay, you are not listening to us. What you can do is to kill us. Instead of hearing from you that, fine, you've made your point, why can't we go on the table, have discussions, okay, we'll address your issues, right, then we get solutions. Yeah.
Interesting. Is IPOA being set up for failure, Wakili? At the end of the day, forget about the capacity challenges they have. When CS for Interior says we will not cooperate, and then you've heard previously from the IPOA chair saying they face challenges in terms of police cooperating with their investigators when it comes to some of the investigations around these rogue police officers. Are they being set up for failure?
You know, if you look at the design of IPOA and how it operates, yeah, first and foremost, IPOA, you'll find most of the investigators are former police officers who are holding ranks in the police service. So you're asking a corporal to go and take, for example, the statement of DIG Lagat. You will enter the room, and the first thing that he's trained to do is to stand up and salute. And now you expect him to write a statement and capture the truth. He will write what Lagat tells him, andika hii namna hii, andika hii namna hii. What investigation are you doing? If we were genuine about our policing, I'll invite Kenyans to go back to Article 239 of our Constitution, which says police, security services must be subordinate to civilian oversight. So we ask ourselves, the design of IPOA as established, is it one that subordinates policing to civilian oversight? It's not, because even IPOA itself already, IPOA, its appointment process, is influenced by legacy politicians. They're the ones who appoint the IPOA commissioners and chair.
Yeah.
And it's beholden to that legacy politics. My proposal, and our proposal of Afina Party has been this. If we really want to break the yoke of the police being used as a force against its civilians, we must bite the bullet and say, let every police station have within it a local community oversight committee elected by the people in that police precinct. And that oversight committee will have the right and the power to enter every police station, to inspect it. They can enter every police cell, find out who is being held here. If somebody is injured, they have a right to say, find out why this guy has never been taken to get treatment. Why has this one not been admitted to cash bail or free bond? What is the reason why they cannot be released? How was policing conducted in our precinct in the last 1 week? Yeah. Did we have a situation, for example, where the police went out in civilians and Subarus to arrest a Kenyan without issuing summons? Why were summons not issued? When police are deployed during demonstrations, how many firearms were issued? How many ammunitions were issued to the officers? How many ammunitions were used? In what circumstances was it used? Was it accounted for? Was there a report? You give power to the people, power in the hands of the people to be able to oversight their policing. And ultimately our proposal is OCPDs should be elected by the people. Why should we have legacy politicians appoint OCPDs that are now allowing rogue elements to move around police precincts in double cabins, wearing civilians and balaclavas and firearms, abducting Kenyans and killing them? And that OCPDs, within whose place are operating, if you go to ask them, they tell you, no, hiyo kikundi imetoka Nairobi. Hiyo kikundi sijui. Then who are you? If you cannot superintend over policing within your area of jurisdiction. So give power to the hands of the people. That is how you are going to dismantle this legacy politicians' chokehold on our police service. Okay. And the police will now turn to be a service that is answerable to the people, because that OCPD is elected by the people. If we see a rogue double cab with balaclavas in our precincts, we'll go to our elected OCPD and ask him, what are you people doing here? You are the ones you're answerable to, not to legacy politicians. Today, an OCPD will not do it. Why? Because there's a call from Kubwa in Nairobi, who determines how policing is done there. So in his operations, he is forced to conduct policing in a way that pleases the Mkubwa in Nairobi. If the political establishment does not want or want a particular action to be taken, that's what is going to facilitate.
Okay. Interesting. And of course, you're saying this at a time when the CS mentioned about police reforms. Let's not go into that because we'll need time. Odur, the pen is mightier than the sword. That's what they say, an expression indicating that perhaps, written words are more effective than violence when it comes to social or political change. I'd like your take on the issue about coverage of protests or politically sensitive events. Because on June 25th, we saw a tough response by the Communication Authority, clamping down on live coverage of protests by media stations across the country. I know it's an ongoing case. I think it's up for mention tomorrow in the corridors of justice. But I'd like your take on whether there's any justification on the move by the Communication Authority to clamp down on live coverage, or it was simply being used as a political weapon.
Thank you. First of all, Communications Authority of Kenya does not have any mandate to regulate media content or programs, because broadcast signal live coverage that is content and programs. And we've had 3 different court decisions, 2 High Court decisions and 1 Supreme Court judgment. And all those judgments said that Communication Authority of Kenya, their mandate ends with licensing and ensuring and regulating the spectrum. When it comes to content now, like what's happening here, which is media content, that is the responsibility of the Media Council of Kenya, because for us to have a democratic country, we need a self-regulated media, and that is the media that we have. So in the event that the government or anybody believes that the media has violated any law or a code of conduct, which I've got a copy here for practice of journalism, then already there is a mechanism. So on that day, on June 25th, if the government probably believed that there was a violation anywhere, then what they ought to have done was to file a complaint with the Media Complaints Commission, so that the Media Complaints Commission can look at the matter and do the review and find out if there was any violation of code of conduct. But in that, what happened is that the government came in with iron fist, and they wanted to intimidate and harass media. And I said before that sometimes when you make decisions, you are supposed to look at the desired results. And the desired result, I don't think if they were achieved by the decision that was made, that Communication Authority of Kenya, they go ahead and switch off signals of some television stations, because immediately you come with what we call information darkness. Again, you are making the matters worse. There is no criminal who will come out when they know that there are cameras, there are live cameras on the street, and the event is being covered live. There's no criminal that will, but immediately you announce to them that now we are suspending live coverage of protest or any particular event. That is when now people with bad intentions actually now come to the street. That's when then now they burn businesses, they vandalize everything they come across, they rape, they kill, they maim people. Exactly that's what happened, because if you look at what has been reported, that all the criminal activities that took place on that day, all of them happened immediately. Communication Authority switched off signals of some television stations, and people who are sitting somewhere could have known that now it is free for all. Nobody will capture us on camera, because with the technology nowadays, if cameras are there with facial recognition technology, obviously if you are captured by the cameras there, it will be very easy for police to follow you and track and know that the number of these shops that were vandalized, for example, in Tomboya Street in Nairobi or any other street in Nairobi, these are the particular people who are there. Here are the pictures, and they can use facial recognition technology to locate these guys where they are. But it seems the government was not considering that. They were only looking at stopping Kenyans from accessing television signal. And immediately you do that, obviously you not get the desired result. And I don't think if those are the results that the government desired on that particular time when they were making this decision. So I don't think that the government, by disregarding the rule of law, they were going to achieve anything, because if you look at what happened on that particular day, immediately the signals were switched off. Story is different. So that's why I say that sometimes the government and even the people who make this decision, they must engage. I know we've had similar situations before, whereby we are faced with some circumstances where maybe you need to make some particular, but we engage. Because I know we've got media, there are leaders in the media. We've got professionals in the newsrooms, which you can engage and help you to make the decision, so that you make a decision that will help you get the desired result. I've asked this question before and I've not been answered, that can they give us any clip where they can say that the media houses violated any part of or any section of code of conduct? There is none. The decision was driven by rumors, by propaganda, just to punish the media. But I don't believe that there was any section. I know, and because we have these discussions with the editors, and if you look at some of the pictures and everything that actually they are aired by television stations, they are very careful. They are very careful before those pictures are put on air. They are very careful to know they'll not show some of the pictures that we are being accused, or the media houses are being accused of showing. Those pictures are asked, and I can still challenge the Communication Authority, the Ministry of Interior, or anybody to come up and tell us that these are the pictures, these are the clips that you guys aired and they triggered or they were used to incite people. And we know that even if you look at freedom of the media, and lawyers will tell you, Willis will tell you, that the limitations are there. Limitations are there under Article 33 on freedom of expression, limitations for the freedom of the media. And I have not seen any. And I'm still challenging them that please come out. Because if you come out with those clips, you come up with the content that you think that are against any section of the law, it will be easy for us as the media to sit down, because when you take it to the Media Complaints Commission, they'll be reviewed. And I can tell you that there is nothing as bad as a professional when you are being reviewed by your own peers, because your peers will tell you, you'll have no excuse to say that, oh, you know, I'm being harassed by the government. No, these are your peers you are sitting with. And they'll tell you, like lawyers, there's no way you'll go and lock a lawyer from going to court without going to the Advocates Complaints Commission. You go there and present your case there. The peers will sit there, they'll review the case, and if you are being judged by your peers, you'll got no reason to complain, because these are your peers who will be telling you that, by the way we look at it, there was something wrong here. But if you take a decision and the direction of the route that was taken by Communication Authority, you're not addressing the problem, because if you take the route that has been provided for in the law, obviously you'll be addressing this, and next time it will not be repeated, because the media houses or journalists who do this, they'll remember that if I violate a section of the Code of Conduct, I'll be subjected to this peer review by my colleagues, and my colleagues will have a very low opinion about me as a professional. No professional wants his or her colleagues to have a very low opinion about him, and that is why the law, as it is, Article 35 or 34 of the Constitution, established the Media Council of Kenya, so the Media Council of Kenya can put in place the mechanism for peers to sit down and review the action or the decision that are made by fellow professionals.
Well noted. Wakil, as you come in, the CA referred to a section of the Constitution in that order that exempts incitement to violence from freedom of expression. A justification?
You know, the first thing that we must say is this.
Yeah.
There are very few articles of the Constitution that are couched in negative terms. And one of them is Article 34, which prohibits, it's actually an article that prohibits the state from what it cannot do. The state shall not interfere with.
Sure.
Very few articles, in fact, I think it's the only one, where the state is told what it cannot do. You cannot interfere with the content of the broadcast, of any broadcast media. That's number one. Number two, on the question you've asked, this Communications Authority cannot be the judge, they cannot be the complainant, the judge, the jury, and the executioner. If you think that a media establishment has committed an infringement of the Constitution, your recourse is not to now turn yourself to be the complainant, the judge, and the executioner and shut it down. The recourse is that evidence that you have, take it before a competent tribunal or court. Give the person his right to be heard, due process of the law, that media house for that matter, and then sanctions will be imposed. There is nowhere in law that the Communications Authority can turn up and claim we are now enforcing the Constitution. The enforcement of the Constitution is a function of the High Court and the other tribunals established, and the subordinate courts established by the Constitution. Their duty as a Communications Authority is to facilitate the enjoyment of the rights in the Constitution. If any entity infringes on those rights, the most they can do is to move the courts or the Complaints Commission, as the case may be, to ensure that the law is followed. But it's not for them. It's like saying, as a private citizen, if I witnessed a pickpocket, then it is within me to take a club and hit him on the head because I'm now protecting. My duty is to apprehend him and have him arraigned in court, and then the due process of the law will be followed. And then also, we have Article 47 of our Constitution, the right to fair administrative action. Before you take an adverse administrative decision, you must give the person who is going to be affected an opportunity to present his case. In this particular instance, Communications Authority did not even bother to notify the media houses affected, to invite them for any conversation, to hear what they have to say before it makes this illegal decision that it made. So everything about it leads you to one thing. And My brother has not said it. What was the intention of that stopping live streaming? Maybe Eric is a good-spirited man. He thinks the intention was about public good. No. Maybe the intention was to shut down those cameras to facilitate a criminal enterprise, facilitate the goons that they were mobilizing and taking into town to commit the kind of things that they ended up committing. That is what the intention was, and we must say it. The intention was not to say we are doing it for the protection or the benefit of the people of Kenya. No. The intention was our goons are ready. It is 4 p.m. They have not done action. Why? They fear the cameras. So shut down the cameras, because probably even there are policemen who are escorting them, facilitating them to commit the mayhem that we witnessed.
Okay.
Because at the end of it all, have you seen the police even sharing detailed information on the kind of things that happened? They've not. Why? They are accomplices. That was the ultimate intention.
Interesting. Let's see. Well, the DCI said over 400 Kenyans have been arrested and a prosecution is ongoing. Let's take a look at what exactly develops on that particular case. I'd like to draw your attention to the proposed Public Order Amendment Bill 2025, where the bill sponsor justifies the move to rein in on how we do protests in the country by saying that protests in the country need to adopt an orderly conduct and avoid violence and death of protesters as seen in previous national demonstrations. And they propose that all public meetings and public processions be held outside a radius of 100 meters from the precincts of Parliament and other protected installations, such as courtrooms and whatnot. So as much as citizens have the right to protect, they're saying it must be done in an orderly manner. I'll start with the Wakili. Does this justify that proposal to ban public protests near Parliament and secured installations?
Who listens to legacy politicians anymore? That Parliament that was breached last year on 25th of June, the Kenyan people are done with this Parliament. No one listens to them. What they discuss there is nonsense. They are wasting the people's time in their discussions. And you'll see all manner of strange legislations being proposed on the floor of that house. Today you saw them all appearing there, 298 of them, to vote for the Constitutional Amendment Bill. When it comes to discussing issues affecting Kenyans like health and education, they are not there. Those are legacy politicians serving their own personal interest. And part of that is to say, let's come up with a law to shield the people from us. A law can only be as good to an extent that the people give it its goodwill. That Parliament will be breached again if they want to. No law will stop the Kenyan people from breaching that Parliament. It doesn't represent the interest of the people. And even if you go to the constitutionality test, the purpose of a protest, by its nature, a protest must be disruptive. That is an accepted standard. It must disrupt the flow of everyday traffic. Why? Because a protest is meant to send a strong message to the policymakers as to something is not right. It's a call to action. So when people go out to protest, part of even what will be disrupted will be the ordinary way of Parliament's business. It's normal to awaken the members of Parliament that there's a cry by the people that you need to listen to and respond to. The only thing that you must do in a protest is to remain peaceably and unarmed. So even Sapasari's bill, tested against the Constitution, in Article 24 of our Constitution, it specifies how a fundamental right can be limited. Yep. The limitation must be reasonable. It should be a limitation that advances democracy and human rights and that is recognized as acceptable in democratic societies. And the least restrictive approach should be adopted. But what we are seeing here is Esther Passaris and legacy politicians erecting a barrier. They are trying to create their own superficial barrier. They are turning the barbed wires that we saw in Parliament last week to be now a law. Just like William Ruto today, when he's moving around the entire country, he's moving around with a platoon. That man is a prisoner. So they are trying to turn their prisons into law. They are captured, all of them. They are prisoners.
Okay.
You can be a prisoner not just in a cell. You can even be a prisoner in an entire country. If somebody told you cannot leave this country today, you become a prisoner in what is Kenya. William Ruto is a prisoner in Kenya. Why? Because he fears his members of the public. Members of parliament in proposing these bills tells you that you are an elected representative who fears meeting your people. You have to physically erect a barbed wire barricade. When that is not enough, you now come up with a law to create a legal barricade between you and the people.
Okay, okay. Odur, all things said and done, we'll leave the law to the lawyers, but it'll affect us in one way or the other if this is enacted into law. As you give us your take on that, do you think the government is addressing the root cause of these protests? We are facing, is it Sabasaba next week, Monday? Kenyans might come out to the streets. So is the government tone deaf? Have they shaken off that tag?
I think what we are seeing politicians and leaders who are not sensitive to what the people are saying. Because if the people are complaining about bad governance, people want to hold those in positions of power to account, then what you can do is to come up with a law to protect parliament. That's why you want people to protest away from parliament. Definitely you are living on a borrowed time. These people will still come to you and protest. Why do people protest? People protest because you've refused to listen to them. If you don't listen to them, that is how people now have to go out there and protest so that the message can be heard loud and clear. And what happens is that protests, like Willis has said, they have supposed to be disruptive because that's when you get the message. So I don't think what the law is, the amendment to the law that is being proposed that will help in any way, but what will happen, like I said, these are some of the things that anger people, that cause a lot of anger to people. Why are you not listening to us? Instead of listening to us, you want to amend the law. There's another law that probably you can also look at. There was also proposed amendment to Kenya Information and Communication Act, whereby they want to spy on your phones, they want to spy on how you are using internet, how you are using social media. Obviously, those are tactics that cannot help. Those are tactics that cannot help. What we are supposed to be seeing is, we are expecting, like I said, we are expecting to see Parliament convening a special session and say that, members of Parliament, we have a crisis in this country. How can we address what the people are saying? How can we have community engagement sessions with our people? How can we have town halls meeting with our people, listen to their views so that we can also give them what we think? Because if you listen to these people, and the majority of these people who are on the street protesting, by the way, they are people who are highly educated. They know what they want. And if you are making sense to them, they will say, by the way, you make a lot of sense, we'll hear you. If you're not making sense to them, exactly what is going on, because if you are coming up with amendment to the law, you're not making sense to them. You are not addressing their concerns because they are telling you, we want you to stop corruption. We want you to stop incompetence in the government. We want you to stop wastage. We want you to use our resources and our taxes prudently so that we also want jobs. Don't tell us that what you can give us is menial jobs, yet we've gone to school, we've got skills that we can apply.
All right.
So we want to see Parliament, because Parliament sit there on behalf of the people. These people are elected by the same people they are now trying to block from accessing them. These people are elected there to go there and do, number one, representation, and enact laws. If there are laws that are supposed to be enacting, they're supposed to be enacting laws to tighten news on corruption, so that we can to tighten how well we are using our resources, so that we can have the resources available to address the concerns of the citizens, so that we can also reduce the taxes, because people are complaining about high taxes, but we are not addressing them. So if for us to see any meaningful conversation, we want to see Parliament coming up with motions, coming up with laws, coming up with policies that can address the concerns of majority of Kenyans. Kenyans are crying. And if you don't address this, we'll find ourselves in a situation whereby it will be a point of no return. So let the government, let Parliament sit and see how well they can engage these people. It's not too late. They can engage, listen to these people, give them their, listen to their views, and also give their views on how these concerns can be addressed, yes.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I think that's how we call it a wrap right here on KTN Prime. So much has been said. Well, we hope the government is listening as you are listening back at home. Willie Sotieno, an advocate of the High Court, Asante Sana, and Eric Odor, who is the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Journalists. That's how we wrap up tonight's edition of KTN Prime. On behalf of the entire team, including my co-anchor Ashley Mazuri and the sign language interpreter Miresha Witi, we say good evening. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.